Hey guys, this is my 2009 Mini Cooper. I'm gonna change out the spark plug, so I'll give a little tutorial on how I changed out my spark plugs in my 2009 Mini Cooper. So here's all the stuff I have. I have my spark plugs, my 4 spark plugs that I picked up for my 2009 Mini Cooper. To check the gap, should be set at 1 millimeter. You can find that. It says right here on the end here, 1 millimeter gap. Picked up a socket to change out because it's that multi-point socket, and got that on Amazon. And I have some dielectric grease, so that way put it on the end of the spark plug. And I have some anti-seize lube. Originally I picked up this one, then I noticed that this one only goes up to 1600 F, but if you get the copper one, this one actually goes up to 1800, so I'm actually going to use this one since it's in the engine. You need a T30 torque end, take off the cover. I picked up these, which is supposed to allow you to put it on the end of the spark plug, and that way you could start it to make sure you don't cross thread or something like that. Make it easier to put it in without actually using this to put it in, and that way it actually doesn't fall in. So let's go ahead and take off the cover and get down to the where the spark plug is. So you take out the 2 T30 torques to get to it. So it took out the 2 T30s here, and great to get one of these magnetic trays for put your parts in so you don't lose them. Took out the oil cap. Basically you pop it from the back toward the front, and cover comes off. You can see that there's tabs at the bottom here. I'll just put that there, and here are my 4 spark plugs. Okay, these basically unplug easily by lifting up the tab. When you lift up the tab, you see that the comes right unplugged. Okay, these basically pop straight out, and you can see at the base here there's kind of like a ring, a gasket. So it's a little bit hard to pop out, but you just work at it, and eventually just pops right out. So go ahead and unscrew, take the spark plug out. Well, that can't be good. The spark plug is covered in a lot of oil, so I have to figure out what's going on there. Well, I took out a second spark plug out of the next cylinder, and that one's covered in oil too, so that can't be good. So when I put the I'm going to put the new spark plugs in and check them again later to see if they're still covered in oil. Maybe after driving for a while. But for spark plugs MK2 models, it's 17 foot-pounds or 23 Newton meters. So here I put a little bit of anti-seize on the threads, and I'll put some dielectric on the top half here. So I'm going to use this tool to go ahead and get it started. I checked the gap. We're at 1 millimeter, and actually the box on the spark plug says 20 Newton meters. So I'll split the difference and do it about 21 or Newton meters, or 21 and a half. Okay, I stuck a little bit of dielectric grease in here just to make it easier to come out, and a little bit right here on the end. So when I put it back in, I torqued it down to 21 and a half Newton meters. And actually it almost makes me think that the original spark plugs that were in here were not tight enough. So I wonder that's what was causing for the oil to leak into the spark plug. And so I'm going to change them all out, and I'll check them out a week later after driving it to see if they still cover in the oil or not. So I'm going to do all these, the rest of the 3 cylinders. So interestingly enough, I pulled, put 1 and 2 back in, put out 3 and 4. 3 had oil on the spark plug. 4 did not, as you can see, and 4 actually on the end of the boot here had all this white crud on it. So not sure what that means, but I'll have to figure that one out. Okay, I'm going to show putting in that last one back in. I put some dielectric grease in there, a little bit there. So basically it just pushes straight down into it. So it's fully seated. Then you go ahead and plug this in. And then you'll see that when you do that, when you push it in, the thing wants to come down, so you just push it down, locks it in. So I'm just going to go ahead and put the cover back on, put the torque screws back on, oil cap, and start it up. So when you put that cover back in, remember I mentioned about those tabs? You gotta make sure those seated underneath the tabs right here. Then that's how you know you're actually well seated, and the torques are back in. Okay, so remember I changed out the spark plugs. I put them all new spark plugs in. Drove around for probably a couple miles. So what I wanted to see is what was causing to get all that oil onto the spark plug when you saw I took it out. So I know there's no smoke coming out the back, not misfiring. So I suspect what's happening is oil is leaking through the head gaskets around the spark plugs, rubber O-ring. So I took out one of the spark plugs, and you can see that there's no oil on the cylinder side, but you got oil on the top side of the spark plug. So that tells me I need to change out the valve cover and the O-ring for the spark plug. So that'll be another video. I ordered the valve cover gasket. I'm gonna do a video on changing that out. So that's how you change the spark plugs, and that's how you figure out what might be getting oil on it. If you get oil on it, it's probably the valve cover gasket. So good luck, and watch the next video on how I change out the valve cover.